happy Friday night. It's Aaron with Bowtie Treasures. I'm here. Are you here? Maybe. So this is the piece, and the reason why I didn't have this in place when we started is because behind this was my work looking at the transfer I'm going to be using. I'm rolling around on the stool. I'll be applying tomorrow night on Dixie Belle's Facebook page at 6 o'clock the Latin floral transfer, which is pretty bold, and I think that's going to be quite the statement piece. But it goes with, there's a little floret decorative element in the corner, and I really felt like it captured nicely this transfer design. So I'm keeping this somewhat coastal may be the wrong word, but I'm definitely keeping it bright. I mean, look at the bright colors. How can you not do something fun with that? So in my vision for this piece would be, as far as for the next person, would be something where the homeowner needed something bright and vivid, either in a bedroom or in a kitchen. This piece particularly, when I found it, was in the kitchen. But it's a cabinet, so it could really go anywhere and has multiple functions to it. So I think that's great. I did all my cleaning and prep on it earlier today. And so nothing crazy, just really getting ready for all the crazy fun tomorrow night. This golf color is bright. It should allow for the transfer to really pop. But I have a gut feeling that I don't want to just put a solid color down, that I'm gonna want some depth. So there's a chance that tomorrow I'll go in and when I start working on the second layer, that I'll probably put some depth. And that could either be with washes or blending. After I applied B.O.S.S, I did go back and lightly sand it with a sanding sponge that Dixie Belle has. So it's nice and smooth. I like when a piece like this has a lot of character from the standpoint of dings and dents. To me, it's been used, it's been loved, and it always gives me an opportunity to showcase those. Like there's a big dent right here. I think it's, I don't want them perfect. And I hope the next person isn't expecting that either. At least not on this type of piece. So it is a cabinet. It's supposed to be storage and usage and all that. Okay, so the piece at this point is painted with one coat. As I mentioned before, we will take this transfer tomorrow. My plan is there's 4 sheets of this transfer, and I'll apply 2 per door. I've been busy working on this project since yesterday And in fact, last night on my Bowtie Treasures Facebook page, we did the initial painting on this project. Not much about it except that I'm pretty sure it's more of an Art Deco vintage piece. The hardware didn't really make it. It was really beat up and plastic, so I took those off. I've got some ideas for what I'm going to do there. But for the most part, it's pretty cool. It's got some unique legs to it. And underneath, there's a couple boards going this way, and I've got it on a cart tonight, so I'll be rolling that around. You can see on it that I did some shading, and let me show you that. I used two colors on here. I did a base coat of the Gulf. That's our first color. Get that straight. And then I did some shading with Mermaid Tail. And I want to be clear that I didn't blend, but I shaded. And I'm going to show you how to do that tonight. And then I also started applying a transfer. This is Dixie Belle's Latin Floral Transfer. So I'm going to demonstrate tonight applying the transfer. I'm also going to demonstrate real quick, before we get to the transfer, I'm going to demonstrate the shading. So two things tonight. I hope those things will be helpful to you to look at. I'm going to walk you through this video of how I shaded it, then I'm going to do a live demonstration. But I already had the front done. I thought, well, maybe you might want to see that. So we're going to do a fast forward view, maybe a 1-minute view. So let's look at that. So here I am spraying it with the mister bottle, and then I'm applying quickly Mermaid Tail, always keeping it wet, and I'm going around the edges, kind of like a vignette, spraying it, misting it, and then I'm taking the larger brush and I'm swirling it around, vignetting that and softening it, even taking a rag and wiping some off. So again, here I am putting on the Mermaid Tail around the edges, and then the B.O.S.S brush, I'm swirling it around. I'm going to demonstrate this live in just a minute, but I want to show you how I did the front. I really wasn't super worried about perfection on the blend, on the shading. I was more concerned about just getting the vignette going. And then knowing that I had the transfer on there, it's going to hide a lot of the imperfections. And when I mean imperfections, just, is it a perfect symmetrical blend? So that's a really fast run through of what I'm about to demonstrate live. So I'm going to rotate this around, and we will do the transfer in a little bit. But I thought it'd be fun to show you how I did the shading, and I already did the other side as well. Let me back you guys up. I got to move the camera about it. So it's a taller piece. I'd say it's about 4 feet or so. I think that gets about almost all of it in there. And then I'm going to talk through the transfer, what you need to know, how you to do it. But for now, let's do the shading on this piece. And again, I'm going down on my stool. I want to emphasize that I'm shading, not blending. And the way I will tell you the difference between blending and shading is blending, both colors are wet, and shading, you already have a dry surface and you're only applying one color. So that's what I call shading. And I'm going to be using a mister bottle, because the mister bottle, you want to make sure that the surface stays wet, the paint stays wet as well, because when you go start moving it around, if it starts getting sticky, it's not going to smooth out right. So that's what we're going to be doing. So I have a Dixie Belle Mini, one of my favorite brushes, and then I have the B.O.S.S brush as well, handy and ready to go. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to mist. All right, and I don't need to put it all over. I'm just going to do, you know what, I better check. I don't think I did the outer edges. Yeah, I just did the front. So we're just going to do, we're not going to do so much the side. So I'll keep that bottle handy, and we will just apply the paint quickly. You want to move quickly because you don't want the paint to dry. And it's okay if you notice how I'm kind of wisping the brush around. I'm not putting a lot of paint down, just enough to allow me to, so I'm just touching the paint in the bottle. What I'm doing with this process is I'm just adding a little bit of depth to the piece. You see how I'm swirling that around? Keep a rag handy where you can discharge some of that extra paint. So you're looking for a soft fade. I'm going to use my rag to wipe off. I had a little extra paint right here. I don't know if it's even coming up in the camera, but I must have touched it earlier. I'm just going to lightly sand that off or paint over it. I'm not worried about that. So just creating a nice, soft So I'm transitioning between where the paint is and where the paint is dry. And then you can come back and do another transition into where the paint's dry and where you left off. Okay, so wipe the brush off. So I'm gonna wet it down one more time. And then here I'm going to wipe my brush off and come in a little bit further to the middle. I'm not really getting into the thick paint much, and I'm just doing another soft. So the idea here again is just to give it some character, some depth. And you can do as many colors as you want, or whatever colors you want. And right now I'm just wiping off maybe some of the extra water, making sure I'm happy. So you see how it's giving me a nice, cool vignette. If it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. You can always, it didn't take me a lot to paint this, but you only have a little bit of working time. So just keep an eye on anywhere that might be inconsistent or that you don't like. But after a while, once it starts getting sticky, you need to stop. It might be best if you're, again, practicing, try a smaller surface. In worst case scenario, you can let it dry and just put another coat, in this case of the golf, back on there. So two really great coastal bright colors that I felt really accented the transfer that we're working on tonight. It's hard to tell sometimes how exactly it's going to look until it's dry. So just keep in mind that you're going to have some softer areas, maybe some areas that are a little bit more defined. And I'm going with the idea that this piece is not perfect, so I don't need a perfect shading. So that's where that's what I did to the front. And so I did a little bit of a halo vignette on the top as well, because I felt like someone would probably showcase maybe a bowl or a plant up there. I thought that would be a nice touch. I don't normally do that type of situation where usually the top's pretty simple, but I thought I might as well vignette it all. Okay. So this is Dixie Belle's part of their new bells and whistles line, and this is the Latin floral transfer. You can see on the back the pattern here. It's a 4 sheet and it's 24 by 32. Always keep in mind that when you're looking at that measurement, you might have some, it might be more edge to edge rather than the actual piece. So you want to take a look at that. I like how the transfers have numbers on them. This is sheet 1 and this is sheet 3. So I've already put 2 and 4 down. I think that's really helpful if you're trying to figure out where everything goes. Now, one of the things I don't want to do is take a half hour and just wear my arm out and show you guys how to rub on this transfer. So what I'll probably do is I'm going to do one of these and we'll see where we are in time. Again, I see that there's some great questions coming through. I'll go back and look at those here a little bit after we're done. Usually after I'm done with my live, I sit on the couch and just hang out and see what you guys were talking about and just catch my breath, if you will. So right now I am using the fact that the transfer is nice and transparent. I am trying to be careful not to let it lay down quite yet. And I'm lining it up on with the other transfer. Sorry if my head's in the way. Kind of need to see. And I think that's about right there. If I can do that, we should be fine. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, There's plenty of flaws on this piece that if it's not perfect, it should be fine. So this is really looking good. I'm excited. I found this piece at an estate sale yesterday, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to put on it, but when I saw this transfer and this piece, I'm like, this is perfect. I really like how this corner element is coming out in this transfer, and so I'm really happy about that. So I just need to find my transfer stick. There it is. I like how the transfers stick on there really well. The thing that you have to keep an eye on with these transfers is that the larger, I will say, number one, I'm glad there's 4 sheets. It can be kind of hard to keep an eye on what all is transferred and what's not. So it's really nice to have this. So what we're going to do is, I usually work all 4 corners, and oftentimes I wind up in the middle. You can work from one corner across, but what you're going to find is as you're going this way, you're going to start getting to parts that you just almost like work your way out to the middle. That's how I do it. Let's stop real quick and just talk about number one, make sure that your piece is dry. I would let it dry overnight before I did a transfer, just because you don't want any of the moisture of your piece coming into and affecting your transfer. So give it plenty of time to dry. So if you put B.O.S. on, a coat of paint, try to give it time to really set up. Don't rush this project. You don't want your transfer to start coming up on you because you rush the process. I'm bringing you in nice and close because it's helpful for you to see how the transfer is lifting, and I hope it's coming through the camera. If you see right here, it's already got a little bit of a ghosting look. Now sometimes I've demonstrated where I've rubbed the whole thing down, and you can do that, but to me, it's sticking enough that all I need to do is go ahead and just start lifting. Do you see how there's a difference right there? But I'm not really applying much pressure. You shouldn't be like winded and cramping up because you're doing this. I barely have just put this thing on here, and it's already releasing. But do you see how I'm pulling on the corner? That's how easy it should work. And I will tell you, I would not be a big fan of sitting here and doing all 4 sections in one setting. I'd probably go take a break and do something else. I mean, you are rubbing, you are moving, so you're burning some calories. And I would catch your breath a little bit, but look how easy that's coming off. That's what you want. But you notice, because I'm here, it's there, and in a minute, you can't really do one little section at a time. It's gonna start going all the way across, but just keep your eye on it. Love for you to check out me, Bowtie Treasures, on social media, especially on YouTube. I try to take a lot of these tutorials and consolidate them for you to enjoy and use as resources later, so love for you to check that out at your convenience. So something this big, maybe you're looking at 10-15 minutes, but we're gonna do the whole thing together, meaning live, so you'll know exactly how long it should take. But I really is going on nice and easy. So far my camera seems to be catching up. I may have to move the camera back here in a second, but hopefully. But don't get ahead of yourself on this. Don't start rubbing down here, and but you can see how you had to kind of bring the whole transfer out together. I love that Dixie Belle has such great looking products that no matter the product I bring into my studio, there's a product that can help make it look fabulous. And if you're new to Dixie Belle's products, I think you're going to discover that for yourself. You may not have all the materials in your studio, but I will be putting my link. Dixie Belle can help me do that. Provide the link that I'd love for you to bookmark and use next time you place an order. I'll put that into the description of the post after we're done going live. bit. I had thought about cutting this up a little bit towards the bottom and fading it out, meaning not keeping it, but the cabinet's so rectangular, I thought it was best to keep together. So probably sometime next week I'll have this piece all staged and I'd love for you to check it out. If you're following me, you'll probably see teases of it a little sooner than when I stage it, but one thing you can do too, and I didn't, let me go get it. You can actually, if you feel like it's getting a little cumbersome, you can just cut this transfer carefully. You can just cut that if it's getting a little too complicated to have too much flopping around. Now you don't have to hold as much transfer. I do have to do a little bit of extra work around the opening of the door, but I'll do that here in a minute once we're done, and I'll show you what I did. That looks great. What do y'all think? Now, if you were going to distress it, you can do that now. I'm not. I'm going to keep it nice and fresh, if you will. And let me look for a... So now what I need to do is just take a look at the... let me get a sanding pad. You can take one of Dixie Belle's sanding sponges and just sand that edge. Just be careful with it. You don't want to rip anything off. But I think we just took this cabinet from nice to wow, right? So this is, there we go, Colonel Mustard. And I want to accent a little bit of the yellow paint in here. Let me bring you guys in. And I thought it would be fun to just do a little bit of highlighting. So I just dipped this scraper in the paint. And I think I'd like to just see if it would be fun to almost kind of give it a little bit of a boho. Just dragging it ever so slightly in a few strategic areas. And this is the fun experimental part. Just add a little bit of a highlight. I would not recommend this if you're trying to keep it super classy, but this is almost more of a traditional, I don't know, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Just almost approachable, something that you would see in someone's kitchen. But I wanted to highlight a little bit of that. And it's another element to add some depth to the piece. And the nice thing is, you can do this also with the purple color, but I like how the yellow just gives a little bit more of the pop, just accents. So I'm just randomly touching here and there, giving it some highlights. It might even be a little tough to even see on the camera, but in person, it'll shine and look a little bit more approachable, fun, and it's going to highlight the transfer even more because now I'm kind of tying it all together. So this is a fun way of doing that. And it takes the eyes off of some of the imperfections. Not that I'm trying to hide anything, but you know, if you're just playing along with it, you're just accenting it. But I think that's pretty cool. So I'm bringing the eye into these certain areas that I want the viewer to look at. So I get to choose. So just a simple pop. And maybe what I'll do is just kiss the corner. I need a camera that just follows me around, you know? So I might just kiss. I've hardly touched the color in the tube container. The fun thing about this, friends, is that if I ever do something like this and maybe I don't like it, I'm not so far away from just touching it up and undoing it. But I think it's gonna give it a little bit more customization. It takes it to another level, meaning it's not a basic cabinet, and the next person gets to really enjoy it. There'll be more to take in, more custom, more fun. And that's about all I'm gonna do, I think. And we'll do what we call sleep on it, right? I'm gonna sleep on that one. So all I have left to do at this point is to transfer the bottom left. And as you know, it probably took us about 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get that all on there. How about this? Let me just keep going. And I know you've seen the transfer work, but hey, I've got more time on the clock. So this gives you an opportunity to ask some questions. If you just tuned in and maybe you missed the first transfer work, let's just go ahead and finish her out. So I'm just lining everything up again. I'll stay on for maybe just a few more minutes. Let me get this transfer going, and you're welcome just to hang out with us for a little bit. I know I've already demonstrated in doing the transfer, but I think it's, since we got some more time, I'll just keep going. Maybe you're new to the transfers and you just really want to get as much information as possible. Right now I'm just burnishing the corner. I'm going to take a piece of transfer and use it to pull this out. Have any of you tried the transfers yet? I would use some painter's tape, something that's not super sticky. Don't try something that's going to tear up any paint. And we're almost done. Last couple inches, and then we'll step back. We'll take one quick last look, and we'll call it a night. There it is. I'm just going to do a really quick, just check everything. Just looking for anything I might have lifted or not look right. Like I said, I've got a couple that got a little bit of hairline wrinkle, but that's okay. I'm really excited to see that come together and get that all finished up in the next few days. I hope this was helpful. If you haven't tried transfers before, don't be afraid of them. Pick the right project, pick the right transfers, get the right colors, and just have fun with it. And always reach out if you have any questions. As always, hopefully you're on social media with me, Bowtie Treasures. Feel free to bookmark that link I'll provide here shortly. And thank you so much for watching. Do something creative, all right?
That's the end of the show. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell before you go. Bye.